Here we go. Wholesale Hotline number 51 with the new intro. Oh, that was smooth. And just to set this up so that everybody, this is a big show. Today's a big show of participation, everybody out there. Okay, as everybody's starting to jump in here, big show here because this show is going to be all about overcoming sellers' objections. Actually, you know what we should do, guys? I'm just throwing this out there right now. I think it should be seller and buyer objections because I think this really gives Jamil a platform to really educate people on what happens when a buyer throws out some of these objections because it happens all the time. So this show, guys, is about you. This is broken down into 3 parts. That's why there's 3 hosts. There's me, who is here, Brent Daniels, TTP, here to talk about lead generation. We've got Pace Morby over here, the meat of the sandwich, talking about converting those leads into signed opportunities. And then we've got, Daddy Jamil, and he is going to teach you all about exit strategies for the deals that you come across. So it is a beautiful blend of 3 parts of the wholesaling business. And we're excited because each and every week we have the most incredible audience reach out. Not only are they sharing love to us, but they're sharing love to each other. And most importantly, they are squatting up. They're squatting up in their towns and they're getting together and they understand when you're watching this, when you're listening to this, when you're in the group chat here, when you're reaching out to people, it means you're not on an island all by yourself. You have the opportunity to be around people that are going to lift you up. They're going to cheerlead you. They're going to support you, potential joint venture with you. So really get in there and squad up. I am so excited because this is, just like Jared says, this is real life. Guys, Pace, Jamil, how we doing?
Amazing. Good to see you, brother. I just saw you the last week. How's that flu?
Hey, listen, Jamil and I went to an incredible mastermind. We learned all about what it means to be a better man, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Unfortunately, I picked up something, I ate something or drank something Saturday and ended up getting Montezuma's revenge and throwing up everything that I had eaten all week. So I feel good mentally, but my voice cords are a little bit abused. So I've got my hot water. I got my Ron Swanson mug, and we're ready to rock.
Love it. Love it.
Guys, thank you so much for coming into Wholesale Hotline. Let me remind you of everything we like to see you guys do. Number 1, this is a social podcast, very social. So we want you guys squatting up in the comments, first and foremost. Secondly, speaking of social, let everybody know you're currently watching Wholesale Hotline. Let's share this. Let's get this up to 400, 500, 600 live viewers. Typically, this show averages somewhere between 400, 450. And then when we get a crazy guest that comes in, sometimes we get all the way up to 800, 900 live viewers. So I would also love number 3, not only share, like, give the thumbs up on Facebook, make a comment in YouTube, do us a favor, pull out your cell phone, take a snapshot, throw it on Instagram stories, and tag me, tag Brent, tag Jamil. We love to retag those. We love connecting with you guys on social media. So thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys coming in.
Also, one more thing that we never mentioned, guys, is if you guys are vibing, if you're listening to this on the podcast, at Wholesale Hotline, you could get it at any of the podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Or if you're watching this, either live or the recorded version, listen, if you're vibing with Jamil, if you're vibing with Pace, if you're vibing with me, we all have and dedicate a lot of time and effort to our YouTube channels. We would love for you to go there, subscribe, and really get connected. That'll give you a lot. There's so much that we put on there. It's absolutely incredible. So don't just make it here. If you're feeling, if it feels good in your gut, go to one of those, subscribe, and get a lot more. Good?
Yeah.
Jamil?
I'm just super excited to be here with you guys, man. I mean, you know, this is the most amazing trifecta of wholesalers and people in this space that we could get together. Each of you bring something tremendous to the table. You know, Brent, you've changed thousands of lives with 3 simple letters. And I can't look how simple that was, right? You've changed thousands of lives by telling people to talk to people, right?
Yeah.
And showing them exactly the things that they need to go out and do for lead generation. You're a beautiful man for that. And there's so many folks that thank you for it. Pace, Mr. Butterlips, you have a knack for being able to connect with people and share complex situations through analogies and stories in a way that make sellers say yes. And that is it's a gift. It's one of the most amazing gifts that you have, and you're able to share that gift with people. You know, the cool thing about what Pace does is, I've watched people go in and out of his program, and you know, they'll come into his program and they'll, you know, have never spoken to a seller before, and they won't know what that conversation needs to look like. And Pace will give them the tools, the techniques, and the words, the phrases to use to just crush that conversion, right? To get them to say yes more often than they're going to say no. Beyond that, he's absolutely helping people figure out how to convert those leads that just don't have any equity in them into creative deals that you can monetize and make money on. And by God, you know, that is a game changer, because we're spending so much money on lead generation. People are doing so much, and they're leaving stuff behind. They're leaving stuff behind. They're leaving deals on the table. But because of Mr. Morby here, that's no longer the case. You know, at Keegley, we're doing our damnedest to try and help you guys sell all your deals, to help you guys understand value, know what you should be locking deals up at, to get an understanding of where those deals will sell. And then we help you take those deals all the way to the closing table for a check. And so
you guys helped me close a deal today, or sell a deal today. And then I saw up here, somebody said, I think they're in Houston. They said they got their first deal sold today, thanks to Keegley.
How crazy, right?
I don't know if you saw me pop that up on the screen, but it's dope. Bro, like, it is crazy. People ask, like, man, you work too hard. You're doing too much. You're doing too much. I'm like, bro, when you see how many people are doing their first deal because of a podcast that we're doing, I feel like we're not doing enough. You know, I feel like there's just so much work to be done. And I see now, like, Brent was the inspiration, like what you talked about, Jamil, with a lot of people starting to get loud. And I now see Brent doubling and quadrupling and even 10xing his content output, because he realizes how important it is.
Well, it's not only that, but I don't want to tell people and give people advice that I'm not willing to do myself. You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. Listen, I'm going to be as loud as possible. Every time that I get loud, more success comes my way. I have a thought in my head that says the more people I talk to, the luckier I am. Well, we all have this thing, right? We all have the ability to get in front of millions of people, if not thousands of people, if not hundreds of people. And we need to use it to our advantage. And that is being brave enough to turn the phone around and show people what you're doing, not being afraid of getting in front of the camera and saying, and Jamil, you hit this perfect at this mastermind, which, by the way, is filled with 45 multi-millionaires. And Jamil's telling them all, listen, I understand everybody thinks their voice is weird. Everybody hates the way they look on camera. Everybody thinks that they're going to get a bunch of, negative comments, but we do it anyway because it gets you it opens so many doors. And so, that's what we mean by being loud. Document your day. Let everybody know that you're looking for ugly houses and that you want to buy them. And watch what happens. Watch what happens with buyers coming out of nowhere that want to work with you, with referrals that you get from real estate agents or your cousin or your aunt or your mom. It's just, it all works to bring it into the funnel and give you the opportunity to have a quality conversation with a distressed property owner. And that's the foundation of lead generation. You got to have quality conversations with distressed property owners. From there, you pre-qualify them, based on the condition of their property, timeline to sell, motivation to sell, and their price. And then from there, you go into what we call the conversion phase. This is lead follow-up. This is the presentation. This is overcoming objections. So I want to warm up, guys. I want to warm up the audience a little bit. I want to throw a couple objections at you guys that I think are really common, and you guys kind of just start playing with it, and we'll just all have fun with this and start answering the questions. One advice that I would give everybody is get a stack. It costs $2 or $3 at Walgreens or CVS or wherever, Target or Walmart, of 3x5 index cards. And on the front, write that objection that you think is going to absolutely crush your soul, right? Where's your proof of funds, right? How long have you been in business, right? How did you come up with your price? All of these objections that you think, and then on the back, write 2 responses to those objections. The reason I want 2 is so that you can kind of gauge based on their personality which one's going to be better, and it just gives you a lot of skills. So that's what I highly suggest. That's what I've done. That's what I've done with every acquisition manager that I've ever had, and it really helps them to just go through those flashcards and understand and use those tools on the fly instead of practicing when they're in front of an actual seller. You ready?
Ready.
So
I've got like 10. I got like 10 of them listed out. If you want me to start with any, or if you got a list of your own. Beautiful. Go for it. Okay, so guys, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to encourage you guys to give me some objections that I've never heard before. I don't think I've had one that I've heard before. I would love to challenge somebody to give me one that's actually real. Don't make something up like, the aliens abducted my wife. I can't get a signature, something weird like that. Okay. I'm going to give you the top 10 that I run into the most frequently. I'm going to zip through them really quick. So everybody pay attention. And then what I want to do is I want to see if anybody has anything outside of that. Okay. And if we can't cover all of these today, because Jamil is going to be intermingling with some buyer objections, because Jamil and his team deals with buyers and all that kind of stuff. You guys know the old adage, buyers are liars. And the PACE adage is this: buyers are liars, sellers are worse. So, and I teach my students that all the time. Most of the time, and if not all the time, your sellers are lying to you. So here you go. Here's the list.
Write these down.
Write them down.
Write them down. Give them a second. They got to scurry around. Write them down, rewatch it, write them down.
Find something to rhyme with sellers instead of like buyers are liars and sellers are smellers. Couldn't we get like
I actually came up with like a phrase that rhymed, and I just thought it was too campy. Like I felt like it was too forced.
Okay.
So I just came up with something very abrupt, like buyers are liars, sellers are, and you're thinking it's gonna rhyme, and I'm like, worse.
I like it. It's good. It's good. It's good. It tickles a little like I want to be a rapper part in my brain there.
Of course.
And it just wants to rhyme, but I get it.
So who has seen me, first and foremost, guys, throw me a peace sign, give me a thumbs up, give me the TTP arm if you guys have heard me on the phone. If you are a sub-2 student, we have over 700 phone calls I have personally made directly to sellers where I talk to the sellers not only about wholesale, but also creative finance. And my students say that portion of my education is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars by itself, because it's me on recorded Zooms. It's not like a recorded call. It's me. You can see my mannerisms. You can see me laughing. You can see me doing all the things. So I love this part of the business. It's what makes me get up in the morning. I get excited. I text my partners. I go, are there any appointments I can go on? And my partners are like, we don't really need you in the business anymore. Thank you so much. I'm like, oh, I've been put out to pasture. But it's a good thing. It's one of the,
he's so right about that, because even when we go away, even when we're in Atlanta, or we go to, somewhere in Florida, he's so like, I want to talk to sellers. It's like he gets an itch. He just wants to.
We can't go anywhere with him. Yeah,
I know.
He disappears. He disappears.
He just wants to talk to sellers all day.
Half the time it's with his wife, and we know what's going on. The other half, he's at some stranger's, vacant house.
Yeah.
Love that. I love that part of the business. And I do miss it. COVID has kind of messed it up a little bit, which actually in a lot of ways, Cody and I had a conversation this morning. Cody's my partner, for anybody that doesn't know. I called him up and I go, man, I have this newfound sense of freedom. Like I have extra time on my hands. And he goes, what do you mean? For anybody that doesn't know this, we actually have now completely gone American or stateside free employees. We have 0 employees in our business. We currently have 35 employees in our business, but they're all virtual assistants and none of them live here in America. And last week we did over we didn't do $100,000. We did $80,000 in assignments and we bought a flip that will add it'll go over $100,000 in profit. In our first week in February, that's all virtual assistants cold calling, virtual assistants following up, and virtual assistants doing the conversion, getting the contract, and actually opening escrow and passing it on to our transaction coordinator. Pretty amazing. Is it a perfect system? I would say it's as close to perfect as you can get. And here's why I bring that up. I bring it up because our virtual assistants learn how to overcome these objections, just like we're going to talk about here in just a couple of minutes. If they can do it, you can do it. I can tell you that right now. So the first objection that I want to come up with, that this is the most common objection, is the seller wants to hear your number first. And Jamil has actually personally seen me in action in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, overcome this objection. And let me give you a little backstory. We fly to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm always on Instagram DMing people. I'm like, who's got an appointment in Harrisburg? Who's got an appointment in Harrisburg? And that's literally what I did. Go ahead, Brent.
Real quick, and I was looking for it. I apologize. And I just want to give a shout out because you were talking about your VAs and VA Hub. Right here, a text. While Jamil and I are in Mexico, Jeremy Thornburg, right? Dispoed. One deal, cold call, $91K. Second one, VA Hub Texter that we have with you guys, $47,000. Two deals.
Oh, bro.
2 deals, $138,000. Well, Jamil and I are toes in the sand. Just
bro,
saying.
that is amazing. Thank you for saying that. I did not know that you guys actually hired somebody from VA Hub. Thank you.
Of course.
Bro.
How dope is that?
Bro,
Yep.
Thank you. So, thank you so much. That means a lot. So Jamil and I are flying to Harrisburg. I get this guy that DMs me. He's actually a TTP student. So I usually respond like TTP, Astro student, Sub 2 student, or Steve Trang students faster. And we're trying to coordinate. And he says, I've got this seller, but the number one objection, I cannot get this guy's number out of him. I can't get this guy's number. He just keeps telling me, give me your number first, right? And we all know the person who gives the number first loses, right? You've just lost not so much the price battle, but you've lost the control battle, right? And the person who gives their price first is the person that's ultimately on the slippery slope, and they're losing ground. Okay, so I tell this wholesaler, I go, get me in front of the seller, and I will overcome this objection. Jamil, I'm going to test you. Do you remember how I overcame the objection? This is what I said. I said, so Mr. Seller, let's say his name's Tim. I go, hey, Tim, so have you and this investor standing next to me figured out your price yet? The investor, Tim, the seller, says, no, I'm waiting for you guys to give me your price. Do you remember what I said to him?
Yeah. Well, I can paraphrase it. I can't, how about I give you the I can't believe it's not butter version and you give us the butter version. So, so what I remember Pace saying was, well, you don't want my number first because this is a negotiation. And if you want me to start with my number, it's going to be low. It's going to be way lower than what it should be, right? Because that's how this works. So why don't we skip that? Why don't we skip the dance? Why don't we skip all the BS? And why don't you tell me what you need, and I'll see if I can help, if I can find a way to get there. Yes.
So love that. Thank you. That's the
Land O'Lakes version. Why don't you give us the
Damn, I'm a big fan of Land O'Lakes, dude. That's the thing. It's like the sweet cream is the best. So here's what I said to the seller. And I want you guys to pay attention because this is a very standard response that I do. So I tell the seller, I go, you don't want my number. You really don't want my number. The appointment hasn't even started. We just got here. So if I give you my number, you're going to kick me out of the door. I want to at least see the property and see if we can come up to your number. And the best way to see that is if you tell me what your price is. He says, I don't know my price. I go, okay, well, I advise, just like when you sell a car on Craigslist, You want to at least give me your unrealistic number right out of the gate because you know I'm going to come in low. So don't go on Craigslist and put your car up there for $0 and say, make me an offer. You know you're going to get people asking for a free car. So go on Craigslist, throw the $3,000 car up on Craigslist for $5,000, and I'll come in and see if I can at least come up to that 3,000, which is your real number. And the seller right then in like 14 seconds goes, okay, my price is $125. Mm-hmm. Right there. Okay. The wholesaler had a hard time. Literally, it was like he said he was talking to the seller for 4 weeks and he couldn't get the price out of the seller. So guys, remember, when you're overcoming objections with sellers, you need to paint a picture of something that's very common. You guys have heard my F-150 story. I talk about Craigslist all the time, things that people can resonate with, right? So again, this is what I told the seller. I said, well, you wouldn't sell a car on Craigslist and say, give me your best offer. You at least know somebody's going to come in lower than where you want to be. So start a little high and let's start with that number. And the seller goes, yeah, that makes sense. I would never sell a car on Craigslist for $0. I'm like, okay, then let's not start on your house, which is your biggest asset in that same situation. So he says, I want 125. I go, perfect. So after you sell it on the real estate market and you have real estate commissions and repairs and all that kind of stuff, sounds like you're probably really looking for about a $95,000 number. After all that stuff is said and done, that's what you really want in your pocket. And he realizes that's exactly what I did. I took his number 125 and I go, perfect. And instead of fighting him on the 125, I walked right into it. And I go, okay, so you sell it for 125. And he goes, yeah, 95 is probably my real number. So within a matter of maybe 4 minutes, by illustrating the Craigslist story about why would you want somebody on Craigslist to name the price they'd pay your car for? You need to start at your number. You need to start at least an unrealistic number and see if I can come up to that. That's the line. Okay, so write this down. Here's the line, very, very short. If you sell a car on Craigslist, we all know everybody starts a little high because somebody's going to come in and lowball you. Let's at least start at your unrealistic number so I can see how far I can come up on that number, because we're going to be off. We already know we're going to be off. Okay. So give me your unrealistic number and let's start there. And every time when you give the seller permission to just give you an unrealistic number, 99% of the time they're going to be polite, just like this gentleman was. And then I'm sitting there talking to the wholesaler in this appointment as we're walking around. I go, did we get it down low enough? Did we get it down low enough? He's like, holy crap. How did you get this guy to drop his price 30? First off, you got him his price. He says it. And secondly, in 3-4 minutes, you got it down $30,000. How'd you do that? And I go, I used a basic illustration of something that he couldn't argue. Something you cannot argue was my illustration. Did I beat up the situation with the house? Did I tell the guy he was stupid? Did I attack him? Did I pull up comps in the neighborhood? Absolutely freaking not. I did not do that. I painted the illustration with a third grader illustration. That's it. So for me, that's the number one objection. I'm going to not go through all of these in terms of overcoming them. I'm just going to give you the other 9 really quick and then spur on some conversations in the thread on the side so we can deep dive on some of these. Number 1, I want more money. 2, I'm talking with other investors. 3, I can't sell right now. I need more time. 4, I'll get back to you after I talk to my wife. 5, what's your company name? I'm sorry, what'd you say your company name was? Right? Anybody hear that one? That's like the dreaded that's kind of what you said at the beginning, Brent. It's like most wholesalers are like, wait, oh crap, I don't have a website yet. I'm going to list it with an agent. That's number 6. I'm listing it with an agent. 7, I get this mostly with foreclosures. We got it taken care of. For a while with my door knocking team, I almost had them wear t-shirts that said, let me guess, you got it taken care of. because it's so common. It's like the most common objection when you're knocking doors is
Can
we
you
got
also
to
add a picture of a bird ducking its head in the sand, please? With
the old ostrich.
The ostrich. Yeah.
So number 8, I'm going to rent it. 9, I want my attorney to review this. And then 10 is I need your price first. All right, guys, by the way, we're at nearly 400 live viewers. So you guys must be getting some value out of this. I would love to hear. Okay. I'm going to go through them one more time because I think everybody's taking notes. Want more money, talking to other investors, can't sell right now, need more time. I'll get back to you. What's your company name? I'm trying to list it with an agent. I got it taken care of. I'm going to rent it myself. I want my attorney to review it, or it doesn't have to be attorney. It could be brother, cousin, whatever. And I need your price first. Does anybody have an objection outside of that is very common?
If I sell, where would I go?
Ooh, I love that one. I call that the Rainbow Bridge. Okay, so I tell people all the time. Go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
Proof of funds.
Yeah.
Proof of funds. Man.
Here's a good one that's in the
Those are
chat.
good ones. I've got other investors coming by. I'm going to open it up for everybody to come this weekend on Saturday and give me your highest and best offer.
How'd you get my number?
That's just, it's not so much of an objection as it is like, it's a condition, right? There's a difference between conditions and objections, right? Condition is they don't own the house.
Right.
They don't want to sell it. They don't need to sell. They don't want to sell. Those are conditions. I think, remember, outside of something very creative, well, even with creative deals, we're deal finders. We're not creators. You know what I mean? Like we'll find that opportunity. We're not going to go in there and convince somebody to do something if it wasn't already in there. Right. So I think a lot of this stems from, do they want to sell this or not? Right. And a lot of the buffering that they do or stiff arming that they do is they're a little bit nervous to say that they want to sell. And it's our job to go a little bit deeper and see if they actually do want to sell. Plenty of people need to sell that still foreclose every day. Okay.
Dude,
these are people that want to sign a contract. Huh?
That's such a great point on the foreclosure. Okay. So in Phoenix, Arizona, before COVID, these numbers are a little bit skewed and they'll go back to this at some point. But in Phoenix, Arizona, even with creative finance and door knocking and like knocking on people's doors, like 2 days before the auction took their house, these people would say, I got it taken care of. And then on average in Phoenix, Arizona, 25 to 35 people get foreclosed on every single day on auction. Think about that. Yeah. 21 working days in a month times 25. You're looking at over 500. I'm sorry. What is that? Yeah. 450 to 550 people every single month getting foreclosed on per month, even though we're knocking on every door 2 days before their foreclosure.
Isn't that something?
It's crazy. It's the old ostrich in the head, the sand in the head thing that you were talking about.
And I think the other one is, and Trader Miggs just put this on here. How do I know this isn't a scam?
I call this one credibility, and we've kind of wrapped this up into credibility a couple times. So like one thing that Brent, you just touched on was proof of funds. Another one's what's your website or what's your company name. All those to me are kind of the same objection. And I run into that all kind of inclusive. Like it's always the same reason that those 4 questions get popped up is either A, you haven't built up enough trust or enough rapport that the seller actually starts challenging whether what you're saying is correct or not. Okay. Check it out. 64 new leads using batch driven remotely today in Phoenix. Fernando, Jamil and I are buying fix and flips. Please sell us a deal, man. Please sell us a deal. We're trying to buy more flips.
I love this right here. Wait. No. Hold on. This is a classic one here. Pace. I love your answer because I saw you do this answer live with the one in Mesa that you bought. She's like, I don't have a key. You're like, that's fine. I'll just break in with your permission.
Yeah, I literally said that. Yeah, that's a great one. So Melissa Riley. So this is what happened. seller is on the phone with Brent's team. I'm in Brent's office. He had a sales guy at the time named Eric. And Eric comes in, he goes, "Hey, I've got this seller, but she has no equity." And I go, "Great, let me talk to her." Hands the phone over. I put her on speakerphone because it was Friday at the TTP office, and he had all of his TTP students there just watching live. So she goes, "Yeah, we don't know where the key is." I go, "Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go drive down to the property and break in. Like, I'll just break in through a window." She's like, "What?" I go, "Yeah, I'm dead serious. I want to buy this house. Can I go down to the house right now?" She goes, "Sure."
No, you started the conversation, and I'm not joking. You go, before she had a chance, you go, "Hey, I'm Pace. Are you a Suns fan? The Phoenix Suns? Are you a Suns fan?" And she's like, "Yeah." And you're like, "Oh, good. Me too. I also want to buy your house."
Look, I don't even know the where he goes sometimes with his misdirections and how he disarms people. It's nutty. Anyhow,
I think the best one was the Tom Hanks thing.
Tom Hanks is. It's like I'll never forget it.
Oh man, that was a lot. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. So
I think a couple of things here. And remember, when when you are responding to objections, the way that it comes across is really important. Pace comes across playful. He comes across serious. He has this balance of serious and playful that allows him to be comfortable, and people feel comfortable opening up because he's like, "Listen, I'm not here to force you to do anything. I might not be the right guy, but listen, I'd love to buy a house. It could be this one. Let's talk about it." And I think that that's the right approach. The right approach is that playful confidence. We call it certainty and likability in the TTP family. Certainty and likability. And once you go with that, and you that's why I say write all these down and practice them on cards, because it's hard to be playful and confident if you're worried about what's going to be said next and you have to respond. It's tough to be certain and likable if you're trying to impress them into doing business with you. But if you start practicing, you're going to build up the confidence. And then when somebody throws it at you, you're like, "Yes, I got this one." Boom.
Yes. So I've got 15 that we've listed so far. Okay. We've got 15. I'm going to fix it myself. I'm too busy. I want to work with the highest and best offer. I'm going to do an open house. How did you get my number? That's not really an objection, but proof of funds, need your price first, want my attorney to review it. I'm going to rent it. I got it taken care of, foreclosures, trying to list it with an agent. What's your company name? I'll get back to you after I talk to my wife. Can't sell right now. I need more time. I'm not ready, whatever. Talking to other investors, and I want more money. So I'd love to get into these, but I also would love to hear Jamil from a seller, Keegley to seller standpoint. Do you have a list of like 3, 5, 10 common objections you get with I'm sorry, not a seller, a buyer when you guys are dispoing properties?
Well, the first thing that I can say a buyer objection is, like, a deal's a deal's a deal, right? So the numbers got to work. But the first thing is, "Oh, this went on the blast, so this can't be a good deal." It's dispelling the myth that there's a secret list, right? So no, there's no secret list. In fact, the facts are I actually have to work against my own buyers when I'm trying to buy a flip from Keegley. So when a deal comes into Keegley, my buyers have just an equal opportunity to buy that deal as I do. So we got to dispel the myth of that there's a secret list. Another myth that buyers or another objection that buyers have is, if this deal was so good, why aren't you doing it yourself? Look, especially when they're new buyers, they just can't believe that you would give them something that has all that equity, right? They just can't believe it. They're like, "Wait, hold on a second. You're telling me I can buy this house from you for $450,000 and it's worth $650 when I fix it? If this is the case, why don't you just do this yourself?" Well, the facts is that that's not my business model. And I do it myself. I do it about 10 times a month. But I also do this about another 60 times a month. So that's how I also make money, right? And that is the key, is that you've got to work with people who understand that wholesaling is a bolt-on to a fix and flip business as well, right? So not only are we fix and flipping, but we're also wholesaling. I am buying my flips from Keegley the same way that you're buying your flips from Keegley. So if you don't want to buy this one, I might buy it, but we both have the same opportunity to get the deal. So that's one of the next most common objections that I get from the buyers. And then third, that there's time, right? Okay, well, awesome, great. Let me just sit on this for a little while. I want to send it to my partner.
Agent.
I want to let my agent take a look at it, and if it's possible, can you let my contractor in not this Friday, but the following Friday at 4:00 so they can do a walkthrough? So it's just not understanding the speed at which these deals move, right? And so I think those are the most common ones. It's like training a buyer to understand that there's no secret list, that they have to, they've got to pull the trigger based off the blast, just like anybody else. The second one is that you're not selling them some phony baloney opportunity, that this is a real opportunity based off of the numbers. And that the reason why I'm wholesaling it is just because this is a part of my business model. I'm a wholesaler, so I like one in the hand instead of two in the bush. And then the third one is just letting them understand about time, that we just don't have the time to dilly-dally. If you want a deal like this, it's going to be sold in minutes. So you either pull the trigger today, or pull the trigger now, or you wait for the next one. And it's a lot of times buyers have to lose a deal once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times before they'll understand that, okay, I see what's going on here. This is serious business. This does happen as fast as you say it does. Oh, wow. Let me trace back a couple of months back of some of your deals. And that's something that my dispo reps will do, is they'll say, okay, here's a blast of property we sent out 4 months ago. Here's the address. Look, you can see what we sold it for, and now you can see what it just traded for on the MLS. It's in fact sold for $20,000 higher than the ARV that I listed it for. So when you have verifiable proof that what you're doing is actually true and real, you can really get buyers to be on board with you.
I love it. And by the way, you have to educate them. You know, some of them you have to educate. And sometimes their education comes from missing out on the best deals. It really does. But one thing that I wanted to touch on, because I think that this is, listen, I work with a lot of people just starting out. They're not part of a big company. And one of the parts that makes them nervous is, you know, what's your company? How long have you been in business? How many deals that you do? And I'll say, honestly, maybe in our business, and we've been around forever, we deal with that maybe 1 out of 25, 30 hot leads. It's really not huge, but I think it's a big hurdle. So I remember starting out, I was getting that, and it was really tripping me up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to hit this before they can hit me, right? And this is what I'd say, before we go any further, I just want to be upfront with you. I want to be transparent. I'm a small family business. It's just me and my wife. We buy properties. We don't do a lot of business. And I just wanted to see, are you looking to get the best deal, or are you looking to work with the biggest company, right? It puts it all in your favor, right? Now they're already assuming you're the best deal, right? Do you want to get the best deal, or do you want to work with the biggest company? And then they go, well, I want to get the best deal. And say, okay, great. I just wanted to let you know, some people prefer to work with, bigger companies, but they get it kind of chewed up in the machine. Just want to let you know you're working with me, and I'm going to over communicate with you. Is that okay? Yeah, that's great. Now we're like partners. Now we're vibing. Now the energy's right. And if they're like, no, I want to sell it to Keegley. No, I want to sell it to wherever, I want to sell it to Home Investors, or We Buy Ugly Houses, or whatever it is. Fine. Then you can cut it off, and you don't have to worry about it, because you're going to go all the way down the road with somebody, and they're going to be like, well, send me your credentials, please. And you don't have credentials. So nip it in the bud early and see if this is somebody that's a big, important thing. You can call the objections out beforehand. You can you could bring a list of objections with you and say, these are the 5 questions most people ask me, and here's the responses. We good? Do you have anything on here that you want me to answer? No, I just like you. As long as we get the price, we're going to be good. Great. Here we go. And then you're rolling down. Now
So guys, what Brent is talking about is there's 2 contracts in every appointment. Okay. There's 2 contracts in every appointment. The first one is called the upfront contract. Okay. And so what Brent is talking about is laying down the tone of the relationship right in the very beginning. Okay. So he's saying, I love that line. So you guys, if you did not write that down, you need to write that down. You say, look, I'm a small business. It's me and my wife. So if you guys are looking to get the best deal, great. But if you're looking to work with a really big company, I'm probably not the right fit for you. Write that down. Set the tone right out of the gate. Then if you have hesitation or you feel like you need to, Brent giving you that advice straight out of saying, can I tell you the top 5 questions that my sellers ask me? Can I tell you the top 5 questions and then answer those right out of the gate? But here's the upfront contract, okay? So the upfront contract is not only saying some of these things up front, but it's telling the seller this. Hey, at any point during this conversation, if you feel like I'm not a good fit and vice versa, if I feel like you're not a good fit and the house just isn't the right fit for us, is it okay if we just tell each other to take a hike without dodging each other or ghosting each other or coming up with weird excuses? I promise I won't do it to you. I'm not going to beat up your home and laugh about the color shingles of the roof as long as you don't tell me I'll get back to you tomorrow and you're not going to. Okay, so we actually get an upfront commitment with sellers. It's called the upfront contract that we're not going to manipulate each other. And then during the conversation, I can revert back to that anytime and say, hey, remember we talked about this at the beginning where I wasn't going to take advantage of you and you were going to tell me straight up. So this is one of our other upfront contracts, or part of it is we say, is there anybody else that needs to be making a decision with you? Mm-hmm. Is there anybody else?
Yep. I like going before every appointment, right? An advance agreement, an upfront contract. Miss Seller. If when I get there and we agree on the price, we agree on the terms, and you like me, you want to do business with me, is there anything stopping you from moving forward with the agreement when I come over today at 2? And if they tell you, yes, this, and this, you know your objections before you show up. My husband needs to review it. I need the attorney to review it. I want to run it by my real estate agent. I sleep on it, like Cody Hotline posted there. We sleep on all big decisions. All of these things, you understand what you're walking into. So why not ask them before you show up? And then at least you have time to prepare something.
Yeah, I love that. So one of my ways I overcome that, guys, I actually wrote down 20 objections through the side. The chat. And one of them was that it was basically, we sleep on all big decisions. So what I tell people, and this is literally every single time, especially with probate, people will say stuff like, well, I have siblings that make part of the decision. I go, great. So here's the best thing for us to do. You talk to your siblings, you have a conversation, you get commitment from your siblings that you guys are good to go, because I'm only talking to the decision maker at this point, right? The person who can actually sign the authorized signature, the person who is the executor of the estate. We closed one last week. It was a probate. They said, well, we have multiple siblings. It's a guy in Colorado, has 4 siblings. So what I said is, here's what I think we should do. Because we could go back and forth on price over and over and over, but the best thing to do, because I'm trying to give you the best possible deal, go talk to your 4 siblings and figure out what the price is before, so that when we start talking price, you don't have to go back and wrangle all them back together. And then we could go, take 2-3 weeks. I want to get you a price. Let's figure that out. I want you to come to the table. So he calls me back like 2 hours later. This is a referral, by the way, from one of our probate attorneys. Calls me back 2 hours later. He goes, okay, we have our number. I go, great. Let's figure that out. It was actually a lap deal. The number he gave us was the number they gave us was Jamila. I was actually texting you about this deal. You and Cody, I was texting you, and you guys were like, lock it up at 135 to 145. It's in Maryville. Mm-hmm. I got it contracted at 125.
Beautiful.
But that was the number they wanted. Awesome. I didn't even have to try hard. He went to all his siblings. They saw the number. They gave me the 125. We're getting the house under contract. So I always say, go get the number before we start having these conversations. Before. And same thing with people that say, I got to sleep on big decisions. This is what I say. I go, okay, imagine you've already made the big decision. What does that look like? Okay, perfect. This is also why I don't give people my price. And I think, Brent, you and I might differ a little bit on this. I don't know. Never, ever, ever, ever give my price because it's the number one most important thing. They don't care about you. People think your sellers care about you. Okay. People think your sellers care about you. They really don't. They want to solve their problem. And right there in that little teeny moment of time, that seller needs you. After they sell the property, that seller doesn't care if they ever get a Christmas card from you or ever hear from you ever again. Yep. For the most part, I do have about 5 private lenders that are my sellers, but that seller is essentially, they're just waiting for one thing from you, and it's your price, so that they can go, I'm going to go talk to my wife. I'm going to go talk to this. I'm going to go talk to that, which means who are they going to go talk to?
Your competitor.
Your competitor. So we just straight out say, sorry, I don't have my price yet. I'm waiting for my partner to get back from a business trip so we can actually look through the deal. Do you have a number that I can present to my partner when he returns? So I tell him flat out why I can't get them a number. I'm looking for properties in this neighborhood. Do you and your family have a number that you're looking for? That's how we get, that's primarily how we get the number out of the seller. We give them a reason why I can't give them one, and we extract it from the seller.
And then we try to pull it out as much as possible, 3, 4, 5 times. If we can't, what I like looking at is any of the properties that are sold in that area. I like to say, well, it looks like your neighbors are selling for properties in similar condition around this price. Is that what you were thinking? Now, I'm not saying, hey, listen, I can give you 127,573. I just put it into my calculator, but I want to get an idea. I want to get a feeling. We get so many leads that if my guys went on every single appointment, it'd be too much. So we get an idea. But sometimes, listen, if the property's in rough shape, we're going on that appointment anyway.
Yeah,
Did
100%.
you see that one, Jamil, that question before?
Which one?
In markets where you have to disclose your assignment fee, are there certain markets you have to disclose?
I don't know that it's certain markets that you have to disclose. I think it's certain title companies that force it. There's not
a state that's like you have to disclose your assignment fee.
It could potentially be in Illinois or in Kansas City or one of those wonky ones that are putting the regulations in. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we run into title companies here locally that do that.
Yeah, I know. No, and listen, I think that's a misconception from wealthy simp. Maybe just depends on where you're at. The sellers in California see your assignment fee. There's no way around it. Is that right, Jamil?
Well, I know that's not true because the title company that I work with in California will do a blind HUD. Yep. So if you're working with the title company that refuses to do a blind HUD for you, wealthy simp, that's awesome. I love the YouTube names. Send me a DM and I will connect you with the title company that we work with in California where you don't have to deal with that.
Awesome. Guys, ask us questions of objections that you're going through. We want to answer this. We'll answer.
Let me go through it one more time.
Here's a good one I see from Kamohe from Hawaii. I'm worried about the tax implications.
Ooh. Kamahai, you're in my program. I think he's just throwing that out there because I have so many seller calls where I overcome this objection every single time.
That's a fantastic one right there.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones. Creative finance is the number one way to avoid the tax implications of selling a property. So when somebody says, well, I'd sell my property, but I don't, some people say, I don't know what to do with my cash. I want to call one of my sellers right now. Her name is Desiree. I also have a lot of her money. When we bought her property from Wholesale, the first thing she said was, well, I don't know what to do with my money. I go, well, if you sell your property to me and we go through an honorable transaction, I do everything I say I'm going to do. Would you be interested in looking at investing in some real estate with me? And here we are 2 years later, she has all of her money with us, So for me, sometimes you get sellers say, I wouldn't even know what to do with the money if I sold it, right? I need that property or blah, 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 blah. And I say, well, how would you like to have a passive return, a monthly check? So Desiree is a great person. I could call her right now. She'd pick up the phone. Another one is with seller finance, you can lower that tax burden by spreading out the money that you receive over a longer period of time. It is amazing what creative finance can do. So when somebody says, like a seller, man, I want to call some of my sellers right now. Like I want to get them some of these on the phone. Like I have a lady, I just bought an Atlanta home. Jamil's been inside the home, Jillian. One of the reasons Jillian sold that $1.3 million property to me is because she didn't want to pay the tax burden on the full $1.3 million immediately. She wanted to spread it out over all those years. So that is, Kamahai, you've seen those recordings. You've seen me do all that kind of stuff. I love doing those things live. So I think he's just throwing that out there as a good suggestion for the group. It's
fantastic. There was another one.
I have 20. Can I go through the 20 real quick?
Go. Yep.
Okay, 20. No, I'm going to go backwards because the ones at the bottom of my list are brand new. I don't know what I owe. Okay.
Yep.
I can't get rid of my squatters. Oh my gosh. That one comes up all the time. Like I can't get rid of my renters, or I have renters in there. I have tenants for 6 more months. That one comes up all the time. I've not run into this one necessarily, but I'm the one that probably causes this objection for a lot of people. The objection is, are you wholesaling it? And I'm the one, I scorch Mother Earth when I talk to sellers, where I say, look, there's these people, they're called wholesalers. A lot of them might even be wearing a TTP shirt. You gotta watch. So I say, you got to ask for proof of funds. I do that. When I know there's a lot of competition on the deal, I will make it challenging for my competition. I'm sorry. This is me being a businessman. So you will get people. I'll get Steve Trang that texts me and he'll go, hey, we just ran into another seller that's asking for
water at you for that one, Pace.
I'm sorry. But guys, here's the thing. I will show you how to overcome all of these objections. I do sometimes create these objections for other wholesalers. So, are you wholesaling it? That's number 18. I have to talk to my family first, sleep on big decisions. I'm going to fix it myself is 15. 14 is too busy. 13 is highest and best investors. The one with we're going to do the open house. I'm going to tell you what I do with people that say they're going to do an open house. This is my honest thing. I don't even waste a second with them. Perfect. I am definitely not your buyer. And I walk away. I am not interested in that game.
Yep.
Every time. Okay.
Every time.
So now that we know the list.
It's like the show The Bachelor, right?
Yeah.
Or The Bachelorette. What, you're going to go in there and you're going to try to flirt and charm them. There's 20 other dudes or 20 other, you know what I mean? Come on, the odds are not in your favor and it's not going to be the best deal. So let them do their thing. No, thank you.
Okay. So let's go through them one by one. Let's come up with maybe a couple of one-liners per objection and see if we can write those on those postcards. Cause I really like Brent's example of get a postcard, not postcard. I'm sorry. What do you call those? A 3x5?
Index card. Just an
index card. It's been a long time since I was in high school. Get an index card and write these on the front. Okay. 20 of them. I want more money. Okay. So let's assume, where does that objection come from? That means you lowballed them. You did an anchor offer. There's a lot of people that teach anchor them, come in really, really low. And people say that you want more money. Do you have a one-liner for that, Brent, at all?
Well, look at Luis's, Luis's in that right now. That's it went away. Anyway, I want to get more money. Well, the next question is, okay, I totally understand. How much are you looking for? I want to know, are we 3,000 away? Are we 5,000 away? Are we $100,000 away? You know what I mean? And then, okay, great. How'd you come up with the price? My price is here. How'd you come up with that price? Let me think about it. And it depends on where we're at, right? Have we seen the property? Do we know the condition of the property? Are we bidding against other people? Do they really want to sell? Is their timeline they want to sign right now, or are they playing the game to get my highest number so they can leverage that and sell it in 6 months?
Right. So I love this. I love your line. Your line of, I've got one line. So your line's really, really good. Your line was, well, how much more are you looking for?
Yep.
Right. Throw it back on them. I love that. Here's another line.
Well, first confirm.
Yeah.
I understand. Absolutely. Sure. Yep. Great. Okay. I totally get it. Yep. So, how much are you looking for? Are we close? Are we too far away?
So for us, I call that the validate question model, right? So you validate, ask a question, validate, ask a question, validate, ask a question until you feel like the seller is ready for you to actually say something that, they'd be open to. So validate, like Brent just said. Brent says, totally get it. Absolutely, totally get that. How much more are you looking for, right? Validate, question. Didn't challenge them whatsoever. You say, totally get it, totally understand. How much are you looking for? Here's another line that we use all the time. The line is, well, man, I probably am just not your buyer. If you're looking for more money than that, I am probably not your buyer. However, I might have a buddy or two that is, maybe would pay more money than me. How much more money are you looking for? And I'll see if they want it, because I definitely don't want it at that price. That would just blow me out of the water. I'd lose money on it at that price. So I pull away. I completely am like, I'm not a buyer. I pull away entirely, because when a seller starts to try and take control of the conversation, I immediately cut off all the chains, all the connections whatsoever by saying, I'm not the buyer. I buy.
Are they giving you their price
by saying that? What's that?
Are they giving you their price? Because you said I'm not a buyer at that price. Are they saying, hey, I want more money. I want 150 instead of 120?
Right.
Okay. Got it.
Do you ever ask sellers to give you a justification of where they got the number from, Pace?
Never. It's always one of three things.
Zillow.
Zillow's a very frequent one, right? In fact, do you know this probate deal that I'm getting in Maryville that Jamil, you and I are going to end up fixing and flipping together for the A&E television show? That guy and their family, the reason why they were so good on their number is because they went off of the Zillow number.
Oh, shit.
Right. So sometimes you get these crazy low numbers. The ARV was like 220, but Zillow was showing like 169 or something crazy because it had a low comp in the neighborhood for some guy that just did a hotel. And he listed the deal for like 169. So bad comp, Zillow pulled it, whatever. So I just don't challenge. I never, ever, ever challenge sellers. The way that I challenge sellers is by disconnecting entirely. Okay. Have you ever been in a fight with a woman?
Never.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. You lose every time. Okay. When you challenge somebody, it's like jumping into a fight with somebody that's just, there's no logic around the price basis. None whatsoever. Okay. So there's no point in challenging them, in my personal opinion and my experience. Now, again, here's the thing. My personality takes me down lines of conversations that a lot of people might not ever run into. Just like somebody else's personality will take them down a line of communication that my personality won't take me down. So I don't really run into scenarios with my personality, my upfront contract, and being very straightforward in the very beginning that I ever feel like I have to challenge them on the price. I also have learned that my favorite line to almost everything is, I am probably not your buyer.
Yeah.
And then
I think that's the question down here, right?
Yeah, seller says, I want market value, but my house needs to be updated. Why would I take your low ball offer in this market? That's a great point. In fact, I ask that question all the time. We just got a seller, and my team was having a hard time converting it. So, oh my gosh, who was on the? This was all recorded. Oh, I know what it was. So we had every Tuesday we have a sales meeting with my whole team, and the team says, oh yeah, I work for American Home Offers, which is the name of my acquisition company. And the guy goes, oh my gosh, I know who that is. The seller says that the owner, that's Pace Morby. I've seen him on YouTube. So the seller says, I only want to talk to Pace Morby. So during my sales meeting on Tuesday, my sales team goes, hey, Pace, this guy, he refuses to talk to anybody but you. I go, sure, no problem. So I get on the phone with him. And my question, this is what he goes, so I'm just wondering, your guys keep calling me. That obviously means that you want to buy my house desperately. And I go, look, it's nothing personal. We just hope we can buy somebody's house today. Might as well be yours. He goes, so you're telling me you don't know anything about a house? I go, actually, I don't even know the address. And he goes, why are we talking then? I go, I don't know. You're the one that wanted to talk to me. So I don't chase sellers, guys. I make sellers chase me. Yep. And so even when always, I go, I don't know. You tell me. I don't even know your address. You're the one that wanted to talk to me. My guys are watching this live. Okay. This is on a Zoom and I'm sitting here with my phone like this. I told the seller multiple times, I'm not your buyer. We're definitely not your buyer. The fact that you had to talk to me and you couldn't talk to somebody on my team means that you probably want something that we're not willing to give you. And the fact that we're even on the phone, let me ask you, this was the closing line. This is how we got him to go forward. I said, let me ask you a question. Why are we even on the phone? Why don't you go sell the house with a real estate agent? Why don't you go down that road? I don't even know why we're on the phone. And I challenged him to go away from us. It is the polar opposite of every wholesaler on the planet when you go this route. And you just are like, I don't know. I mean, you're the one that answered the phone. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to buy your house. But you tell me, why don't you just sell the house with a real estate agent? Because I can tell you this. I have never one time convinced a seller to sell their house wholesale that should have sold their house with an agent.
100%.
100%. And I think that's a big point here. If 29 people are telling you in Phoenix, and this happens every day here, guys, you guys know this, 29 out of 30 people go, the market is so hot. Why would I take this offer? The market is so hot. Why would I sell it here? You shouldn't. You shouldn't. But you know what? That 30th person doesn't want to list with an agent, doesn't want to go through the inspections, doesn't want to go through all having it listed and on the internet and all these things. There are people that don't want to sell traditionally. I mean, that's just what it is. So find those people. The problem we have is, and I did this myself starting out, was I talked to 90 people and they're like, it's the craziest market ever. I'm just going to list it if I want to sell it. Great. But then you get that one and you make like 30,000 or 12,000 or 13,000 or whatever it is. And you're like, wow, this was all worth it. So I think we use the excuses way too often because we hear it all the time of people that don't want to do business with us. That's great. Find the people that do. It's hard. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to be a fist fight. It's going to be uphill sprinting backwards when you're starting to build your pipeline of leads. But stop trying to convince people to do something when they're going to do something else and keep more of their money or do it's just a better fit for them. So let them do it. Jamil?
This question from Scott.
Yep.
Scott asked, Jamil, if I wanted a buy price in Odessa, Texas, can I get that through Keegley out of Houston? Actually, Scott, I got even better for you. In the chat right now, you're going to see the lovely Tina Cruz as well as Keegley Dispo. They can help you get a number for that. So just reach out to them, send them the address, and they'll let you know what the buy price should be for that. And that's for anybody, guys, for any of you that need some help on a buy number. Even if Keegley Dispo can't do the deal for you, even if they're not in that market, they are still wanting to help you with a buy number. They will still help you get an understanding of where you need to be or understanding of what ARV is and what your contract price should be. So reach out to them and please help and please help Tina out and Michael out as well by giving them some patience. They do get a lot of submissions. So if it takes them, an hour or two to respond, bear with them.
Awesome.
So what about proof of funds? Right? If this is one of the most common things, proof of funds, credibility, especially the ones like, I don't do this that often. I joke around about it, but I do scorch the earth from time to time. And what do I mean by that? Let's say I'm talking to a seller.
You're
and the
not
seller
joking.
says,
you're not joking at all. Come on, player. Come on. You and Trang, man. You guys, it's just lines of scorch throughout the valley.
All the time. But here's the thing is we only do it when a seller says, well, I'm talking to multiple other investors. So let's say that they say they're talking to multiple investors. I'm going to give you guys a couple of things, a sequence. Okay. So number one, they say, well, I'm talking to other investors. What I say is I say, perfect. I probably am not going to be the one that's going to offer you the most money. So in parting, can I give you at least 3 or 4 pieces of advice when you're dealing with these other investors? stuff that I see all the time and would save you a lot of time and maybe even get you a little bit higher purchase price with those other investors. Seller says, yeah, sure. Wait, you don't want to buy my house? Well, no, I just find that what happens a lot of times is that if 3 or 4 other investors are going after the same house, there's always one person willing to throw in such a crazy price to get rid of all their competition and then come in 2 weeks later to renegotiate the seller down to where they should have been, that I just don't like playing those games. Yep. And so I'm just going to throw my hat into the ring right now and say, I'm not your buyer. But you see what I'm doing here? Do you see the psychological game I'm playing?
Yep.
So then the seller says, well, sure. And I go, do you have something to write down with? Anna has watched me in appointments over and over and over, make them go to their glove box to get a napkin to write something down with, because I want them to write it down. Okay. So I say, number one, if you're going to work with other investors, make sure they actually have purchased a property before. This one will hurt so bad. And I'm going to tell you guys how to overcome this if you ever run into this. I tell the seller, go, make sure you pull up county records to see that individual or their company has actually purchased a property before. Okay. So I pull up county records right there. Or if it's over the phone, I'll send them a screenshot of houses that I own. Now, how do you overcome that if you're a brand new wholesaler and you're like, freaking F Pace, I can't believe he's doing this to me? First and foremost, squat up with somebody like a Keegley. Squat up with somebody that's a TTP student. Squat up with one of your cash buyers and say, hey, you know what? Absolutely. I got all that credibility. What do you want to see? You go to your cash buyers. Hey, cash buyers, I got this seller that wants to see this, and this. Can you help me out? It's so simple. I have had to use that with my cash buyers in the past as well. Okay. Another thing that I will do is I'll say, make sure that you ask for non-refundable earnest money with a minimum $10,000, because if they're gonna offer an all cash transaction on your property and they can't put $10,000 together, probably not somebody you want to do business with. Wouldn't you agree? And they're sitting here writing fervently, like, yeah, what else you got? What else you got? Okay. So when I leave, Anna's like, she goes, I watch it, Pace. I watch as you get to like the third item. The third item I tell them is this. I go, tell them that once you get into contract with you, that there's no more access to the property once you're in contract until after you close escrow. And she goes, I see them writing this down and I just see them deflated, and they look up at you every time and they say, why don't you want to buy my house again? And so that is how I close sellers that tell me right in the beginning, I'm working with other investors, so you better give me the highest price possible. Do I do that in every appointment? Absolutely not. We probably do that in 5% or less of our appointments. Awesome. So the way you overcome that is by squatting up with people. The way you overcome that is by being a credible wholesaler, going to a wholesaler you know in your market. A TTP student, an Astro student, a Sub 2 student, say, yo, can I use your website to point my seller to and say that I'm part of your company and we can work on deals together until I get up and going? People might hate me, but this is why I'm one of the best closers, is because I will not put up with that crap. And the other thing is too, we have a lot of bad wholesalers in Phoenix. We have wholesalers here in Phoenix that will do this. They will offer $20,000 higher than they should. They will lock the seller up and every single time cancel. But here's the worst thing. They freaking put a memorandum on the property when they had no intention in closing in the freaking first place.
So what does that mean, Pace?
So what, a memorandum?
Yeah, no. What does that mean when somebody doesn't have the intention? They put a memorandum on it. How do they make money?
They make money because now what happens is let's say that there's a guy in town that does this all the time.
All the time.
And my team knocks on a door. They go, the seller gets in, we get into a contract with the seller. We've got 2 weeks until foreclosure. We're running down to the title company. Title company pulls a prelim or pulls to see what actions are against the house, what mortgages, what liens. Oh, and they find a memorandum. We pull the memorandum up and we find out it's another wholesaler, very notorious wholesaler in town, that now the title company calls the wholesaler and says, hey, I see your memorandum on this property. My client is supposed to close escrow on it. What's going on? Why haven't you closed escrow? We need you to remove this memorandum. It looks like you're in violation of your first contract. You never closed. And that wholesaler says, give me $5,000 and I'll let go of my memorandum.
Every time.
It has happened to all three of us on this screen more than we care to admit, by not only just one guy, but multiple people, and we could name them all by name. That is how frequent it happens in Phoenix, Arizona. So I have to combat a little bit with those guys where I say, look, if they're not going to put up non-refundable earnest money, then they're not a serious buyer.
It's not even combating. You're being honest to the seller. I mean, you're putting their interests like front. Right there. You're telling them, listen, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. If they're willing to do these things, then they're probably a legitimate company. And if you want to go with them and they'll give you more money, God bless, go do it, rock and roll. But if they're not, because they're just, fake and they're just fake actors, then, I think that we should consider working together.
I want to touch on this. What are your thoughts about this, Pace?
What Logan says?
Yeah.
So Logan says the gurus have made a mob of noobs that give the rest of us a bad rep. I completely agree. And here's the mob of noobs that we run into. Now, we teach a lot of new investors, but this is why our courses are so important, is that we teach people to squat up. It's one of the main reasons we have this podcast, is to encourage you guys to work with credible people, not crappy people. I 100% agree with this. And here's the stuff that you learn. You learn people, or you hear these radio advertisements like free seminar, blah, 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 blah. And they teach these kids to go in and just lock up contracts. And I actually saw this guy. I don't know if he's still doing it. I blocked him on Instagram, but he has an entire course on how to lock up a seller and renegotiate with them after locking up. His course isn't about buying houses properly and taking care of sellers. He actually teaches a course on renegotiating a seller 2 days before you're supposed to close escrow. So yes, I completely agree. And he's an influencer on Instagram. He gets a lot of love. People think he's the bomb. And I look at that, I'm like, dude, that's the stuff that gives this business a bad name. And that is the reason why states like Illinois and other states are moving towards more and more restrictions. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely being seen out there. I want to touch on that because there's a bit of scarcity mentality in that phrase that I want to remove from the fact of, that people are being trained wrong, right? Because there was another comment there that said, yeah, too many, let me just read it to you so I have the exact words. Too many noobs, right? So again, the reason why I take issue with that is that, look, there's nothing wrong with competition, and there's nothing wrong with a lot of guys out there doing the same thing. There's only a problem if you don't work with them. There's only a problem if you let those people out there, to hang out to dry. All those people that have been trained wrong on how to do sellers dirty and how to do things incorrectly, they're not going to last in that model. But these are people, these are human beings that are still putting their time and energy out there to try. So wouldn't it make more sense to leverage that human capital, to leverage their resources, the time and energy that they're spending to get out there in the world and do lead gen, and help them do it in a more productive, honest way? That's how I look at that. I see every time that a program or a guru teaches somebody to do something unethical, we have an opportunity to help them do the business in the correct way. We have an opportunity to help them understand this business in a higher way. And that's how I would look at that. Well, and also, listen, I've been hearing that since 2012. Right. I've been hearing the same thing. There's too many people that are finding out about this secret thing called wholesaling. There's too many people. There's too many people. No, it's the bad actors. Yeah. So adjust, make sure that if somebody's out there, that they have a bad reputation and that you're loud about it. You know what I mean? And then just move on. It's all local stuff. It goes quick, especially in our group here in Phoenix.
if you're a bad actor, we all know about it. You know what I mean? And those guys don't last very long. So I don't run across it too much. We run across it sometimes. And for the most part, I mean, you could threaten those people with lawsuits. You know what I mean? That have the memorandum on there, and they'll fold and they'll do something, or whatever else. And yeah, I mean, I
just want to talk to one of my sellers.
Let's do it.
Hey.
What up, Desiree?
How are you?
Are you driving home from work?
I'm driving, but I'm not home. I'm just going somewhere really quick. What are you doing?
I'm on a podcast with nearly 500 people listening to your voice.
Nice. Hello, 500 people.
So, what we're talking about today is, I teach people how to do real estate. Yes. And I bought your house. What was that? Nearly 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago.
And so what we're teaching people today is how to overcome objections from sellers. And I remember you and I worked out a deal. Do you remember why you went with me versus you went with maybe 5 or 10 or 15 other wholesalers or investors that were trying to call you? Do you remember that 2 years ago?
Okay, so I do remember I decided to meet up with, there was another guy you were involved with that actually met me at the house the first time.
Oh, Eddie. Yeah, Eddie.
And I met up with him because I just was done getting all the calls from everybody. And I said, something just felt different. Okay. So that's why I met up, but I never planned to have anything further because of the mess that I was in that house. Remember?
Yes.
So I didn't plan on doing anything further. I knew that the deal would fall through. I knew that Pace couldn't help me. I knew that he wasn't going to be in for the long haul. But I'm serious. But when Pace said to me, I'm here to help you, and whether I buy the property from you or not, or what'd you say? Whether I buy the property from you or not, I'm here to help you get out of this situation. And so then I was like, okay, well, what can we do? And no matter what the problem was, you had a resolution. You never gave up, number one, ever. It didn't matter how many liens were on the house. It didn't matter how many contacts I didn't have. You said there's always a way to fix the problem, number one. And number two, you said, what did I want for the house? And I said, everybody was lowballing me, everybody. And you said, what can I give you that you'll be happy with? And I said, I don't want what it's worth, but give me around this ballpark amount. And I can't remember what it was. And you said, if we can get every single problem resolved, me and you together, in the end, I can give you this amount. And me and you together, it took a while, but we got every problem resolved. And that is why I owe everything real estate to you from here on out.
Well, check this out. You gave me chills, Desiree, first and foremost. I haven't talked to you since December. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I love
it sounds like I paid you to say all this, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it does, because it's such a great tie-in to what we're talking about, is just the fact that, so here's the backstory for everybody that is paying attention. We have 500 people watching. So one, Jamil and Brent, which are my co-hosts, they say hi, Desiree.
Hello.
So let me tell you guys a couple of things. She had purchased this property from a gentleman years before, and she bought it through a quick claim deed. And essentially, there was a lien on the property for $110,000 in a child support lien. And together, do you remember I went down to the guy who had the lien, and I went and sat in his chair at his barber shop and talked to him? Do you remember that?
Yep, you went and you said, yeah, exactly. I remember you went to talk to him, and I went and tried to find the mother of the child, and I resolved hers and you resolved his. And together, we got everything off that house.
What'd we give the baby mama? The baby mama got like $1,000 or something. And
yep, I told her I'll pay her $1,000 off of I think it was a $75,000 lien. And I gave her $1,000 off of that lien, or I just gave her $1,000. And then the guy that had an additional $15,000 or $20,000 on his house, because the owner of my property also was the co-signer on this property, so they threw a lien on his, and so that guy was in the middle of a short sale, right?
Yes. And
he couldn't fix it because he didn't have the lien, and he wasn't going to make any money off of it, right?
Yes. And he's the guy. Yes, it was amazing story. So we get all this stuff removed. We bought the property from what I remember. We bought it for $110,000. And I asked you, I said, Desiree, what are you?
You wanted to give me 108, and I said, no, I want 110.
That's right. So she worked me, guys. Desiree manipulated me. I ended up buying the house for 110, I believe. And where is that money today?
That money, I didn't really know anything about real estate, and so I was really scared because everybody started saying, oh, you're going to have capital gain on that. You're going to end up paying 30%. Well, 30% on $100,000, as you guys know, is nothing. Like $100,000 is nothing, honestly. And so I said, what do I do? So I run to Pace because who do I trust? Actually, I thought Pace was a scam. I'm not going to lie. In the beginning, I thought he was a scam. So because he never scammed me and he showed me his heart, I thought, who in the world can I trust $100,000 with? Well, Pace, of course. So I went to Pace and I said, Pace, what do I got to do with this? And he said, you can do this, you can do that, you can do this. And he basically said, give me your money back, lend it to me, I'll pay you the interest on it, we'll invest it in some properties, and because it's in properties, you don't got to pay taxes on it, and I'll pay you a little bit of interest on the money every single month. And I was still kind of, guys, I'm not going to lie, everybody around me, family, friends, don't trust him. He's a scam. He bought it from you, and he's going to get your money back, and he's going to run. And
that's a genius scam.
It would be, wouldn't it?
2 years ago, one guy at my work said, how do you afford to live in the house you live in, work part-time, raise 3 kids, and have no help? And because my significant other was unemployed at the time, and I said, well, I did some investing with this guy. It was actually a God thing, sin. Like, he just came along, and I think, honestly, God put him in my life for a reason. And I told this guy, he's like, yeah, I want to know about that. And I said, yeah. Let me tell you about it. And then after I told him all about what Pace did for me, he goes, yeah, that's a scam. I'll see you in a couple of years and you'll be out.
So
that's not $100,000.
Right. So we send you a check every month, right?
Every month.
So she gets a check every month, guys. But here's my favorite part about Desiree. Number one, I love her like a sister. She's wonderful. But here's what we did. So she calls me up. She goes, hey, I've been renting my house for a while. I want to go buy my own house. And you talk about this creative finance stuff. And I go, well, how long have you been living at your rental? And she says, 9 years. I think you were living there, right? 9 years?
Yep, 9 years.
And I said, why don't you just let me talk to your landlord and let's work out a creative finance deal. And I helped Desiree buy her own home she was renting. She now lives in her own home she bought from her landlord. I sat down with her and her landlord at lunch and we worked out a deal.
Yeah, and you're gonna laugh. I laughed when you texted me today because guess what?
What?
I called him yesterday and asked him if I could buy his property at the end of the street the same way I bought mine now.
Oh my gosh. But you know what?
And he said,
you better watch out.
I'll have to think about it, but he did. Why? Tell me.
Because I'm scamming you. It's a really long scam, but you're being scammed.
Long scam. The long game.
I said you were scamming me 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
He just asked me the other day. He said, "Oh, because I had gotten a new car," and he said, "Oh, you're still doing your side hustle." He goes, "I swear you sell drugs. Like, how do you manage?" Because you got to remind you, this is a nurse, no kids, single man. And I said, I tried to introduce you 2 years ago what I do to put a little bit of money in my pocket every single month. And you said it was a scam. So until you have an open mind, I said, you will see me flourish and you will continue to sit right where you are today.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I freaking love you. You're the best. Guys, tell Desiree thank you. Oh my gosh.
Incredible. Incredible. Hold on.
Thanks for going on live with me, like randomly.
Yeah, I really didn't have a choice.
I know. I was like, I text her. I go, are you at work? Cause she's a nurse. And she goes, no, I'm not. I go, great. I'm going to put you on live right now with 500 people, like right now. Desiree, I love you. I appreciate you.
I love you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
For all you do. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. So moral of the story, guys, is this. what do you have to remind yourselves of is that these guys are being called so many times with other investors. You have to lead with your heart. And it sounds so cheesy until you actually hear one of my sellers who 2 years later is like, I love you. I have every penny she sold that house for is in my subject to deals. Okay. So she's lent on my money. I'm cash flowing. I bought real estate. She gets a check every month. And then because I care about the people I work with so much, I sat down with her landlord and convinced her landlord to sell her the house she was renting for 9 years. This was 2 years ago, by the way. How much do you think she's made on that property just in the last 2 years? She was renting it for 9 years prior.
100 grand.
How much interest did I get her to do the deal for? 0 interest with her landlord. How much down payment? 0 down payment. And now she's buying her second property from that same landlord. So when you guys lead with that heart into every conversation you have with the seller and you're truly looking for the solution, you will freaking dominate. So when people say Pace is the master closer, Pace is the master closer because I truly believe what I told her. I said, whether I buy the house or not, I'm here to help you. Tell me what I can do. And we freaking hustled and did that deal together. That, by the way, was the first deal I ever did with Cody. That was a lead he gave me. I sat down at McDonald's with him and he gives me that lead. And she was so hard to close. It took me 4 days of phone calls to close her. And then boom, here's the relationship. That's the possibility of this business.
How much do you think she's earned in appreciation on that house now that she owns it?
Probably close to
100 grand?
75 to 100 grand. Yeah.
Not a bad scam.
She gets a check every month from me for $1,100 every single month. So Check this out. Her monthly payment on her house is less than $1,000. She now has her investment with me paying a house off that I helped her buy on creative terms because, as Brent Daniel says all the time, wholesale is the gateway to all of this.
Yep.
We bought that property on cash. This is what's so cool about this deal. It was our first deal, my first deal with Cody. So I contracted with Desiree in Cody's contract and I assigned the deal to myself for 10 grand. So Cody made 10 grand and I turned around and wholesaled it for 20 grand above that. I made 20, Cody made 10. I still have all of Desiree's money. She gets a check every month and she lives in her own seller finance house at 0% freaking interest. Guys, I have dozens and dozens of stories just like this. That is what this business is all about. Oh my gosh. All I want to do is talk to sellers now. Gosh damn. Sorry, I talked so much this episode, guys. I'm sorry.
It's great.
No, you crushed it. That was great. She's great.
She's good. She's really good. And, Jamil, same thing. We were in Atlanta 2 months ago. And the seller, Jillian, on this big property that we just bought, seller finance, we end up spending an hour and a half at her personal house, going through her life and understanding, where she came from. And she lost her husband and her new husband lost his wife. And they were friends. And so she's, just hearing these people's stories and truly caring about them rather than just thinking about that wholesale check every time. Guys, I promise you the checks come. You just truly have to care about the people. So I'm sorry, I'm going to shut the hell up.
Jamil, before we close out here, can you help Hamza?
Yeah, I got one other that I want to give a quick bit of advice to. So Hamza asked, it looks like they've got 2 leads near Houston, Texas that are on the main road. One of them on the intersection. Would a buyer still be interested? Yeah, if the price is right, just make sure that you're adjusting your ARV down significantly depending on the price point. So if you're in over $250,000 and you're on traffic, you're going to do a 20% reduction. If you are under $250,000, you can do a $10,000 reduction for traffic. That's the average. It could be plus or minus. So I'd need to look at the deal specifically. However, if you reach out to Keegley Dispo, they're in the chat. They will help you in Houston. And then the last guy was MTPTA. He was asking, if I go to a title company and I bring them business, will they introduce me to buyers? Yeah, heck yeah, they will. They'll introduce you to buyers. They'll introduce you to wholesalers. They'll introduce you to everybody you need to know. In fact, title companies are some of the best connectors you will ever do business with. Not only are they interested in your files, but they're interested in connecting people, because the more people they connect, the more files stay in their office. So leverage your title company. Leverage. Brent, take us home.
And with the title companies, listen, they'll wine and dine you. They'll put you in secret rooms with the biggest people around. They'll do masterminds. They'll sponsor all these things. They're incredible. So listen, guys, I hope that you took a lot of notes. If you're just if you just popped on during this, definitely watch it again. Listen to it. Subscribe, guys. If you're getting a vibe from Jamil, from Pace, or myself, all of our YouTube info is here. I mean, it's easy. Whatever. Go find it. Subscribe. We have a ton of information. This has been show 51, and Pace absolutely crushed overcoming objections. Remember, certainty and likability, right? Certainty and likability. You need to have fun, but you need to be confident. And just like Pace was there having a conversation, he'd have that conversation that he had with Desiree, right? With any seller. I mean, if you've ever heard his recordings, he's just talking to him like he's known him forever. Get to that point. He's had to build that because he's had a lot of objections. He's overcome them, and now look at it. So practice, get your 3x5 cards, write 2 answers on the back of any objections that you're getting, and build your skills. That's the difference between the amateurs and the pros.
Brent, does that mean that next week is our 52nd week?
Yes, 1 year anniversary.
Wow. What are we going to do for our 1 year anniversary, guys?
Topless.
I would do it.
Let's just take our tops off now.
Let's do. Okay, you start.
Come on, Pace, take it off.
I can't.
All right.
You suck.
Like,
Anyway,
I can't.
we love you guys.
I have no pants on underneath this.
Hilarious.
Love you
All right,
guys.
love you guys. We're done.